Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today I want to have a little chat about conflict. Recently, you may have seen a video I did detailing an idea I had for how the devs could potentially rework Kenley College in Year 4. I'll link that in the top corner if you care to go check it out, and I kind of laid out why I think the majority of players would be in favor of it, and why Year 4 would be the ideal time to do it. For whatever reason, that led to a lot, and I mean a lot, of comments about PvP. Apparently, some people got the message that by saying I think a lot of people would enjoy a Kenley rework, apparently meant that I didn't think PvP should get a rework. Not sure about the math there, but that's certainly not true. I think there are changes that could be made to Conflict and the DZ, as well as the actual mechanics themselves of the game that could improve the PvP experience. Now, we know we're getting some form of the latter there with the introduction of some kind of instant armor kits, as was revealed to us in the Specialization Rework Intelligence Annex, and so at this point, I don't see it being very worthwhile to try and dive into that side of things, while we're likely very close to seeing what the devs have planned in that regard anyway. On the contrary, you have the potential making changes to the structure and rule sets of Conflict and or the DZ. Personally, I'm of the opinion that Conflict is in a much worse shape. Not everyone might be, and that's fine, but in my view, reforming Conflict into something much more accessible, sensible, and fun would be much more beneficial for the game heading into Year 4, in my opinion, than trying to reshape the Dark Zone when it already works fine. And who knows, maybe there are already changes planned for these two modes, but similarly to the Kenley video, I've condensed this down into the simplest changes that I can think of in order to fix and improve the experience. I've narrowed the list to 4 things, again, coming from the perspective of a gamer and not a game designer, seem like they would be relatively easy to do. If the devs would be inclined to go in to do a more thorough redesign, then fantastic, but baseline, I think these 4 changes would make Conflict several times better than it currently is, and I would absolutely love that. So I'll be very curious to hear all of your opinions on the matter. Let's get into it. I'm going to rank these 4 items. While I think they're all relatively simplistic, I'm going to rank them in order of importance, starting with the quote-unquote least important and moving up the list to what I believe to be the most important change that they could make to the Conflict umbrella of PvP game modes. Starting with number 4, team size. Bump up the existing mode's player counts, or introduce a TDM-like mode that can handle higher player counts. Conflict has always seemed as though it was meant to be a much more tactical experience, at least in concept, but in reality it's really slow, and a lot of the times the only points at which you're consistently fighting them is if you're spawn camping them, which is a whole other issue that we'll come back to later on. But especially in some of the maps like Wharf, Fort McNair, even some of the original ones, there's way too much runtime for a mode that's supposed to be about pure PvP action. So I say, and this will be supported by some of the other points here, ditch the attempt at tactical gameplay, up the player counts, and just let people have their fun. The current 5 maps we have could easily handle 2 extra people per team, bringing it up to 6v6. Now, that's not from a technical standpoint. Obviously, if there are technical limitations to that, I wouldn't be aware, but I just mean from a gameplay perspective, even Capital Ruins, which I think is the smallest out of the 5 maps, would be tons of fun with 2 extra people in the mix. So yeah, if technical constraints allow, raise the Conflict player counts to 6v6, it would be so much better off for it. Number 3, get rid of any holdover normalization. I don't know about you all, but for me, the non-invaded DZs instantly became so much more fun to fight in when they got removed, or they got their normalization removed back in TU8. I understand the premise, I understand the intent for it being in place, but honestly, and I say this a lot when talking about PvP, newer players' bigger detriments to tackling PvP for the first time isn't their build. Sure, they're going to get smacked around a little bit until they can figure out some better configurations to run, but if they don't know how to play PvP, how to change their playstyles and such accordingly, then they're still going to die, even when everyone's build is supposed to be on the same level. 99 times out of 100. Normalization does nothing to help that. It just hinders and nags at the enjoyment for the existing Conflict player base, so whatever kind of holdover normalization still applies in there, honestly I don't really even know what it is at this point, but there is something in place. Scrap it. Let people feel the same way they feel currently in the 3DZs, and I guarantee that we would be better off for it. Number 2, the spawn mechanic. This one would probably require the most work to code on the dev's end, at least, again, from my limited knowledge base on that stuff. But I do believe that out of these 4 things, it's absolutely in the upper ranks of importance. Conflict spawns are atrocious, to be blunt. I understand the intent was to group teams up by having these like synchronized spawns and having everyone in one spot, and I get the intent behind adding in a debuff for the opposing team entering an enemy spawn, but it just gets so messy, and it's not fun. Spawn camping is something that'll happen in 3 out of 4 Conflict games? It'll flip the spawns while one team is still in there, allowing the campers to then apply the insane debuff to you and kill you from behind. It's a mess. Instead, have each team spawn together, in the spawns at the start of a match like it is now, but then take advantage of the entire map. Do it like Destiny or Call of Duty, where you can dynamically spawn anywhere by yourself. And maybe that does mean you'll spawn in the intended spawn location, but if half the enemy team is nearby it, have the game detect that and place me somewhere else on the map. Even if they were to increase the team sizes to 6v6, I can guarantee you can find spots to spawn people that aren't crowded. And so remove the interconnected spawn timers with teammates. Just make spawns independent, fast, and smart. Remove any sort of spawn debuff. Just place someone in a dynamic location on the map. Give them the standard, 1 to 2 second spawn protection shield you get when you walk out of the door in the DZ, and send them on their way. It would make the experience so much more smoother, smarter, and just plain fun. And lastly, the number one change that I believe Conflict needs in order to simply deliver a quality, sensible game mode is restore the effin' radar. Mic drop. Okay, but seriously, just restore the radar. Again, I'm guessing that Red Storm is going for tactical and team-oriented play by removing the radar in Conflict, but it fails miserably at trying to produce that. Instead, you have more camping than any other Division PvP zone or experience in the past. You have a far greater volume of quote-unquote cheesy builds and people trying to take advantage of things that are clearly unbalanced because they can use the no radar feature and the normalization to cheese their way to victory, essentially, and it just removes a core pillar of what makes Division, which is allowing the player to have ample tools and the ability to gauge their situational awareness, to identify and strategize about incoming targets. The ability to see names from far out is gone. The ability to rely on your radar is gone. The ability to use a pulse for further information is gone, as it's given like a 500% cooldown nerf in the mode. And no, I'm not exaggerating. It really does. And all of those things have been key to the experience in every single PvP playable space ever since the Division 1's DZ. And the fact that Conflict revokes that by just getting rid of the radar and hiding player names, it's just so not fun. There's really not much else to say. It just makes for a bad player experience. And I believe it is the single most important change the Massive could consider implementing to Conflict in year 4. So, in conclusion, come on, Massive, just 4 things and Conflict will be infinitely more fun. Bump up the player count, give us those larger battles we all want and crave, gut whatever weird normalization is still strung up in there, make it feel like PvP does elsewhere in the game, change the spawning system to prevent the camping that occurs in the vast majority of matches and keep the overall flow going much better, and complement all of those things by restoring our right as a Division agent access to our information. Let us see these additional players coming, let us get an idea of where they're coming from when they spawn at these new locations, and just let us have fun. So there you go. That's the pitch. Those are my 4 changes for Conflict that I believe Massive should consider implementing in order to create a greatly improved experience. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video and be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you can be updated every time I upload. Let me know your thoughts on my ideas here to give Conflict a bit of a facelift. Do you agree with me that these 4 changes would be some of the easiest, most effective ways to revive the identity and interest of the mode? And if not, what would some of your propositions be? In general, I'm very intrigued to see what, if any, PvP changes await us in this new update. We know we're getting instant armor kits. We know that specialization weapons are coming back to PvP. As I've said before, I don't believe that that was done without some sort of plan or reason, and so I'm very interested to see what that may be, and if it perhaps includes Conflict or not. That's going to do it for me today, though, everybody. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and until the next one, guys, RogueGold out.